Why does life have to be so cruel? All I ever wanted this year was to go out day one, buy my Wii U, and to pick up a copy of the amazing looking Rayman Legends. That's all I wanted. It's all I've ever wanted. And it got delayed! Delayed! It was meant to come out November 30th, and now it may never come out. Well, it totally will come out in spring, but that's not the point. My life and my world has come crashing down because I can't get the new Rayman game that looks amazing with the gamepad and the glow box and just it 3D. There's now 3D. It looks amazing. So, in my infinite grief that I'm now suffering, this month I've decided to go back and look at the Rayman games to make me even more sad about how I can't play the new one, but also to remind me just how great the Rayman series has been and will continue to be, hopefully. So, yes, let's start off with the very first game in the series, Rayman 1. Just a quick note before I start, I played the Game Boy Advance version of the game for this review, but trust me, I have played the original PlayStation version, but I will only be reviewing one version of the game. The original Rayman has an interesting history. It was originally made for the SNES back in the day, but Ubisoft decided to move development to the SNES CD-ROM, as it was more powerful. When that fell through, it eventually ended up coming out on the PlayStation and the Atari Jaguar in 1995, as they were both disc-based consoles. 1995 was a weird time in gaming, as 3D gaming was right around the corner and nothing was really happening yet. Sega was doing bad with the Saturn, Sony had released the PlayStation but it would take some time before it hit its stride, the Atari Jaguar existed for some reason, and the SNES, despite releasing some good games, was still making way for the N64. Rayman couldn't have come out at the worst time. It was a new LP and it was a 2D platformer, and at this point 2D platformers were on the way out and 3D platformers like Super Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot were only going to come out next year. The question is though, does Rayman deserve to be remembered as one of the true great last 2D platformers of that generation, or should it just be forgotten and we should just focus on Mario and Sonic? Let's have a look. The story is that the brilliantly named Mr. Dark has been doing some misdeeds and the hero Rayman must stop him. Hey, it's a 2D platformer, you don't need any more story than that. You're a good guy, he's a bad guy. Stop him, win the day. The first thing you'll notice about this game is how amazing the graphics are. I know you're seeing the Game Boy Advance version, but everything is so well done and crisp. The colours, the design, the environment, the animations. For me, this stands tall next to Yoshi's Islands when it comes to making a really great looking stylish platformer. One thing I love about the style of this game is that it's very childish and friendly without seeming like it's appealing to idiots. Nowadays, something that is childish means that it's aiming towards someone that is brain dead, but here it's cute and cuddly, but it has a disturbing edge to it. Certain enemies will fire cartoon-like hammers, while others are just pure evil. I talked about this kind of style in my Pikmin review, but when you can mix something that's kiddie but also has an unsettling edge to it, I can't get enough. This game consists of 6 different worlds: Dream Forest, Badlands, Blue Mountains, Picture City, the Cave of Scops, and Sandy Gateau. Of course I have some favourites, but each world has its own charm and moments. One thing I really like is that once you get halfway through a world, you can choose to go to the first level of the next one. It's not a lot of variety and choice, but it's nice to have that option to explore the different worlds at your own pace. During each world you will unlock new power-ups as Rayman, as at the beginning you can only walk and jump. If you played the other Rayman games, you'll probably recognise most of these abilities: the punch, the hang, the swing circle things, among others. If you played this game before, you will already know that this game is very difficult. This is both a good and a bad thing. It's good as it means that you have a feeling of satisfaction once you beat a level, or once you get a particular part of the game that's giving you a lot of trouble. It's bad because of the life system. The lives are the same as they are in other games, but there's a very good reason they took lives out of Rayman Origins. It only ever leads to frustration. In a game where it is so easily to be instantly killed and lose a life, then hitting that game over is always going to happen. The main problem is that too much of the level design is about memorization to beat it, but when that punishment is that you instantly die, it becomes annoying. You do have a health system in this game where you start out with 4 health, which can be upgraded, but once again it's very easy to get hit, and when you die you lose the extra health you earned. The Game Boy Advance version was actually tweaked to be easier than the original, as in the original you only had 3 health and this one you have 4, but I still had a tough time getting to the end of it. There's a reason why recent games like Super Mario Galaxy and Sonic 4 give you a large amount of lives. It's because if you run out of lives, it's just frustrating. You see, back in the day, games were about a player's endurance and how much they could remember the levels, and you weren't supposed to be on your first playthrough. You start playing, you get better and improve, and then when you get a game over, you just start all over again. It was like having a high score in an arcade game, only the high score was what level you actually managed to reach. Games aren't designed like that anymore, as that mentality only really appeals to children who have nothing better to do than play the same few worlds of a game over and over. What this means that Rayman can feel very cheap, even though it's actually pretty well designed. Enemies and smart and platforming feels like it actually takes skills to get across them rather than them just being there. One thing I enjoy about this game is the bosses. Each one is weird and unique, and it's cool to play a boss that takes time to learn and beat rather than modern bosses where they're just very easy and predictable. Once again, it suffers from the problems of the life system being too harsh and strict, as in to memorize a boss's pattern you have to take hits and be killed because you're not going to know how to avoid it. And when you hit that game over, you have to start the level all over again because the bosses aren't just one level, they're at the end of a particular level in the world. They're still fun to play, and pretty much what this game comes down to is two things. It has immense charm, it's fantastic to look at, and you can really enjoy playing it. But on the other hand, it can be very cheap, and I enjoy a challenge, but this can get a bit ridiculous. Even though it's quite a short game, you're just going to have a bad time playing it in certain moments, and while a game should be challenging, this can take it to the point where you don't really want to play it anymore. I would talk more about the game, but those are the two things you really need to know. I would definitely recommend it for anyone who enjoys retro platformers. I definitely recommend it to someone who just wants to experience the graphics and how charming it can be. I would also recommend it to someone who enjoys Rayman Origins, as this is the one that Rayman Origins is based off, although this game isn't quite as well designed in the platforming area. So my score in the end, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I would give it higher, but it can be kind of annoying sometimes to play. And I can't give it any lower because it actually is really enjoyable to play and it has a lot of charm as well.